Clint Cosgrove, Rivals.com. We're back with Coach's Corner. And, I'm really excited about today's podcast because it kind of veers away from the normal head coach interviews and, the insight we get from that. And it goes in the direction of what many, I know I do, consider probably the hottest topic in college football, college sports in general right now. And that is NIL. And today's guest, a very special guest, is a former Rivals four-star linebacker who I believe was recruited by my dad, went on to be a 3-year letter winner at the University of Nebraska, had the career cut short due to concussions, but it seems like that was a blessing in disguise because you were able to get a jump start on what has ultimately become a big-time entrepreneur career. I'll go with that. And now you are shaping the NIL space as the CEO of Opendorse. And I'd like to welcome my guy, Blake Lawrence. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, Clint, I appreciate it, man. This is exciting to connect and looking forward to diving into this whole topic of NIL.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And we kind of talked about this before. When I talk with football coaches, I don't want to say an expert, but I'm a lot more of an expert in that area than I am the NIL area and the NIL space as a whole. And it's almost kind of like the Wild West. People really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It's confusing. I get questions from parents all the time. But just to start out, give me an overview of what Opendorse is, maybe for the common student athlete that isn't familiar with what you guys do.
Yeah, certainly. So the world of NIL is been around for a century in terms of the concept of athlete endorsement. So like another word for NIL is athlete endorsement. So if you think about athlete endorsements, think about an athlete on a billboard, an athlete in a commercial, an athlete on an autograph, signing autographs in a trading card or in a video game. So athletes have been a part of business for a long time, but for so long, college athletes could not make any money through endorsements or name, image, and likeness activities. Once that rule changed, it opened up a world where there's 500,000 student athletes. They can now monetize their name, image, and likeness. And that is a world that is very complex and challenging. Most pro athletes have an agent or a manager or many agents and managers helping them manage endorsements, figure out where to go, what to sign, what not to sign, how much to ask for, managing their taxes and whatnot. College athletes do not have that. Most of them don't have agents. Most don't have managers, and it is new. So Opendorse is a technology platform that athletes use to understand their NIL value, to build their NIL value, and ultimately monetize their NIL value. So we help them land the autograph deal, get on the billboard, make sure they're getting paid for appearances, doing their taxes, and it's all in an app, right? So instead of building an agency, we built an app, and we started building Opendorse in 2012. So we started doing this really a decade before NIL hit college sports. But it is an app that is used by 100,000 athletes around the world to manage their NIL deals and endorsements.
So you say you started it, many, and obviously there wasn't NIL for college athletes back then. You started out, I believe, doing kind of contracts with colleges and brands. Did you see this maybe coming, and did you know that you would be able to kind of pivot Opendorse and use the technology for what you guys are using it for today?
Yeah, certainly. So Clint, when I was done playing in Nebraska, and you mentioned earlier, I had concussion issues, had to stop. And yes, your dad did bring me to Nebraska. I had to work him real hard to get that Nebraska offer, and hopefully have made him proud. I know that Nebraska did a lot for us and our my family, and so thankful for that. But, when I was done playing at Nebraska, Audie Kanalik is my business partner. He played Nebraska as well. Yeah. And, we started a social media agency in 2010, which was very early into Twitter and Facebook and before Instagram existed. And we're helping businesses and athletes use social media to build an audience and make money. And then we saw one of our teammates, Prince Amukamara, got drafted to the NFL. And he had a lot of questions about endorsements, and there seemed to be no technology whatsoever that he could use that would help him, again, understand his value, build it, and monetize it. And so we said, there's, in a decade from now, so go back to 2012, Audie and I have a conversation, say, 10 years from now, athletes will be making their money through an app, not through an agent. But that app doesn't exist, so we'll build it. And so we started working with pro athletes and building an app that would help pro athletes maximize their endorsement deals. And so that same foundation that we, built to help pro athletes is what today's college athletes use. Now, there's a lot more sophistication in the college market, a lot more rules and a lot more eyeballs. But end of the day, it's a simple premise of helping athletes understand, build, and monetize NIL. And it's done through an app. So yeah, we were a little bit early, but that's given us a lot of understanding of how this works and what athletes need to make the most of it.
For sure. And before I get into, just your impressions on the first year of NIL and kind of where you see it going, I've been on Opendorse. I've looked at it. It's almost like it seems to me like a one-stop shop. And you talk about, not just football athletes. There's athletes of every sport.
Every sport. Yep.
Yeah. And, I look at, the different values that, you can purchase stuff or have them endorse things. And you talk about, having them, gain an understanding of the market and their value. Obviously, a lot of the deals can be done through Opendorse. I know you have the contract stuff and everything in between that. But how, as a new athlete coming into this, do you guys kind of establish a value? Do you establish what they're worth in the market? And what is that based off?
Yeah, certainly. So just to kind of bring it back a little bit, for those listening, for those watching, I want you to understand, if you walk into a meeting room for any college sport, so football, you got 100 kids in there, basketball got a couple dozen, whatever it is, right? And you say, how many of you want an NIL deal? Every athlete will raise their hand, Clint, okay?
No
and then
question.
You ask them, all right, how many of you have a place to send somebody to do an NIL deal with you? And they'll all put their hand down. Like it's like, imagine you want to sell your goods online, but you don't have a storefront. It's impossible to sell things if you don't make it easy for people to buy them. So Opendorse.com is where athletes go to sell NIL, right? This is what they do. It's their storefront. So that's the problem we have to solve for the athlete, is like, everyone wants a deal, but where do you send people, right? You can't send them to your coach. That's not their job. You can't send them to the school. The school can't do the deals for you. So where do you send them? And that's where Opendorse comes in. Like, that's why we're growing as fast as we are, so that athletes need a place to go. So within that, once they are like, all right, you go to my Opendorse page, then they say, you want to do appearances, you want to do autograph signings, like, what do you want to do? And then, what they don't know is what they should charge. They have no idea. And the buyers don't know what they should pay. Like, it's a new world. So what Opendorse does is, if you've ever used Zillow, Clint, you ever use Zillow? Anyone that's ever out there, like, you look at a Zillow's estimate for a house, okay? And all the Zillow is doing is looking at every house just like that in that zip code, like what it sold for recently, how many rooms this place has, how many square feet, and it's to say, okay, based on everything we know, this is what this house is worth. We do the exact same thing for athletes and NIL deals. So based on real-time transaction data, this is a proprietary patented process for us. It's called the athlete rate card, or Opendorse ARC. We will tell an athlete, hey, based on everything we've ever seen with athletes that play forward in the Big Ten Conference, in women's basketball, they charge $122 for a 1-hour appearance. So maybe you should start there. So those are the things that we do to help athletes not only just have a storefront, but actually charge market rate, so they can, again, make sure they're maximizing their opportunities.
That's incredible. And I don't want to go down the rabbit hole yet, but like, obviously, a good player at a name brand school that, plays a certain position is worth a certain value. Does, social media following, engagement, all that stuff. And then do you guys include that as part of the valuation?
Yeah, it does. So it's all social. Like, if an athlete connects their social channels, their value gets more accurate. Okay. So I can give you a value based on what sport you play, what position, what class you're in, what conference, that sort of thing. But if you connect your social channels, then it gets more personalized. So then it's based on you. And that's something, again, that's patented and part of our world that creates a tremendous amount of value in the back end, helping athletes price themselves accordingly.
That is absolutely incredible.
Cool.
I've already learned more than I've known and gained knowledge wise over the past year, because a lot of the time you just hear about these big $1 million deals and these back channels and all that stuff. And I know you guys are more than that, but As far as the first year of NIL, I mean, like I said, Wild West. This has been crazy. It's not necessarily, well, I guess it is regulated, but it's not transparently regulated, and there's a little bit of everything going on. What does the first year of NIL look like to you, and then where do you see it going from here?
Yeah, certainly. So Opendorse, we have partnerships with more than 100 college athletic departments across the country. More than 100,000 athletes use our products. So what we do is we analyze the transactions that are occurring in our marketplace that are being disclosed through our tool set to understand how big is this market. And so in the first year of NIL, we estimated it was about $917 million that was committed to and contributed to the NIL space. And that will exceed $1 billion in year two. And a lot of that is really, there's two sides to NIL. So everyone needs to understand this. There's athlete-driven NIL. Okay, so athlete-driven NIL are things like social media promotions and appearances. This is where you hear the Cavender twins who play for Miami. They play basketball at Miami. They are generating money through athlete-driven NIL. Livy Dunn, who's a gymnast at LSU, she has millions of TikTok followers. So she is driving her NIL value. Okay. That is the bona fide, like what everyone expected NIL to be when it was all announced. Like that's athlete endorsements. And then there's athletics driven NIL, where it is whether the athlete has true NIL value or not, they're being compensated at a high level. And this is where donors are paying athletes to stay at a school, to go to a certain school, and they're doing it through compliant NIL activities, but their intentions are different, right? And it's being driven for a different purpose. So in that world, in year one, it was about 50-50, like athlete-driven NIL, athletics-driven NIL, like kind of similar in terms of the spending. In year two, it is exceedingly more and more. Most dollars are athletics-driven. This is where collectives and directives and donors are paying a lot of money to athletes who happen to play their favorite sport at their favorite school.
Wow, imagine that. It's kind of like the olden days, just it's a little more out in the open. Yeah, exactly. You mentioned collectives, and like you said, this was intended to be you profit off your name, image, and likeness based off what you do when you get to college. The collectives have brought kind of a new aspect for it because the schools can't flat out pay the kids,
right?
But the collectives, they can. And I know there's not supposed to be pay for play, but what can you tell me about the collectives? Do you have interaction with them? And how do they play into the grand scheme of things? And how do they get around really doing pay for play at the end of the day?
Yeah. And so here's what I say. Opendorse, just because we've been around, we've got 100 plus employees, we've been around for a decade. We're the most advanced technology, most complete technology in the NIL space. And that's true in college sports, pro sports, and globally. I mean, we have a wide set of tools. One of those tools is what we call a collective operating system. So we've built this over the last 18 months, and it's used by more than 30 of the biggest collectives in the country, from Austin, Texas to Eugene, Oregon, and you can guess some other spots in between, Knoxville, Tennessee, right? And the groups in those markets, they use Opendorse for everything, and they're using Opendorse because they understand that there are rules, right? Collectives. Most of the conversations about collectives is a big number and a coach and a quote and whatever it is, an athletic director maybe. But fans need to understand that behind the scenes, like the only way that a collective can exist and persist and not hurt the school that they exist to help is if they follow the rules. And Opendorse helps them do that. So we track, who is getting paid by who to do what, where, when, and how. And the most simple thing for any fan to understand is there has to be a bona fide NIL activity, which would be like an appearance, a social post, an autograph signing, a commercial video shoot, a Zoom call, a video recording, whatever you want it to be. There has to be a legit activity, and there has to be proof that it occurred. Like those two things, and now you got a bona fide NIL deal. Now, what an athlete gets paid is not scrutinized and cannot be controlled. So there are some athletes that get paid six figures to make a 1 hour appearance. And that is more than any professional athlete in most sports would ever make for a 1 hour appearance. And these are 18-year-old kids on campuses that they're not even household names yet. So that's how collectives operate, is that they are using tools like Opendorse, and most of them do use Opendorse to ensure that there's a record that we offered this athlete this amount to do this at this date, this time. Here's proof they did it. And then the only thing that's befuddling is the dollar amount, but everything else is the same. It's the same as you and I going and paying an athlete for an autograph. You and I might believe that athlete's autograph is worth $50. Who are we to judge if somebody pays them $50,000? Maybe it's worth it to that person. So
eye of the beholder, I guess. It's
right.
Whatever they see value in.
That's right.
So that is absolutely wild. Now, how about this then with the collectives, and you do have interaction, and I don't know, how transparent are these deals? Like, are you able to see it and not able to divulge it? Does the NCAA ask to see it? Like, at what point is this going to become public knowledge?
Well, what is interesting is that the short answer is Opendorse. We have access to more data than anybody in this industry. Because we are the payment processor, we are the transactions, we handle disclosure, compliance, contracts, notifications, all that. So yes, the schools in most states are required to see the details of every NIL activity. Like if there's a state law, it's required. The NCAA encourages disclosure, but does not require it.
Wow.
And one of the biggest challenges in this market, and this is for multiple reasons, and if I had to make a prediction of what's to be, it'll come in just a second, is that no one knows what's real. Okay.
Yep.
So athletes are making decisions about where to go to school based on a promise that cannot be tracked, cannot be reported, is not known. And there are bad actors taking advantage of minors, right? The kids that are, when they're getting recruited, are 16, 17 years old, and they have no guidance, and they're making decisions that change their entire life on lies. And one of the things I'd point to is that this industry will benefit from sunshine, from transparency, knowing, does the quarterback at XYZ SEC school actually get paid $1 million a year, right? Because there'd be certain decisions that wouldn't be made if they could just talk to the kid and ask him, is this real? Like, are you actually getting paid this, right? But there's a lot of secrecy in these dollars and transactions. So my prediction is that the best way to help ensure consumer protection here, both on the buyer and seller side, which the buyer is the collective, the seller is the athlete, is that there is a publicly available database that helps you understand who's getting paid what, where, when, for what, where, and when. And Opendorse is the foundation for that. I mean, we have that data. It's just we don't have the rights to share it in any public forum other than in aggregate, like industry-wide statistics.
Yeah, I mean, like even on like a blockchain, I guess, would you be able to publish the list of deals, maybe positions, maybe not schools, maybe schools, but without names? I think people would figure it out if there was. But do you see there being some sort of public ledger if it never gets to the point where they're publishing and announcing what minors are getting paid to make their college decision?
Yeah, I would say so. One of the things that we're doing, and we just announced this, and we're rolling out this month, and this is the introduction of Opendorse NIL books. So this right here is one of the most valuable assets in all of college sports today, and it is helping people understand, like, by position, what is the annual earnings expectation of a Big Ten quarterback or running back or tight end. Wow. And same thing for Power 5. And this is based on over 100,000 NIL transactions that have been processed through Opendorse or disclosed through Opendorse in the last 18 months. So this is the most tangible, actionable data, and it in effect acts like every industry has a centerpiece that helps understand, here's what good compensation is, here's what bad compensation is, here's market rate. NIL will be no different. This is the start of it. Now, this is not a publicly available document. This will not be shared in any which way, which will allow you to identify athletes, individual statistics or data. This is by conference or by division. We don't have by school. Now, the only people that know what the school numbers are the schools themselves. And so that's something to know. It's coming. Like, again, this is right here, one of the most sought after pieces of information in college athletics today. and we're shipping them out here in the next 2 weeks. So our partners will get access to information that can't get anywhere else.
So I can't go to Barnes and Noble and get a copy of that?
If you find one at Barnes and Noble, you call me because I got some lawsuits to hand out.
Would a guy like me who talks to a lot of recruits be able to get a hand on one of those, or is it really just in-house?
No, you gotta pay to be an Opendorse partner, and then you have to contribute to the data set. So that's something that schools and collectives are on the list of distribution, as well as conferences, and they have a confidentiality agreement they sign that cannot be shared with third parties. So again, Clint, if this ends up in your hands or on rivals.com, like, somebody's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Wow. Man, you guys got it all figured out, and that is the most valuable piece of NIL that are in the NIL space that I've heard of, that I've seen. It is absolutely incredible, and I know a lot of people want to get their hands on that, but it's going to be a short group, it sounds like.
And here, Clint, since we're old friends and new podcasts, like, this is something I've shared this publicly, so I don't mind sharing with you. So, a Power 5 football running back, based on every transaction, the market rate is $130,000 a year for a Power 5 football running back right now, right? And then,
wow,
if you go into, like, breaking it down by conference, ACC is around $50,000, Big 12 is around $77,000, Big 10 is around $91,000, going into, let me see here, SEC is around $60,000, and then the final one would be, let me see, Pac-12 is around $75,000. So, I mean, you can slow that down and drop it in wherever you want, but so you're seeing things that maybe that's smaller than you thought, maybe it's higher than you thought, but if you take all the data together, it's most oftentimes it's more than people think. And it's going up every month.
Is there going to be a point where the market, kind of like anything, you look at crypto, you look at, like, where the market eventually levels out? Because, one of my biggest worries when you get $8-10 million quarterbacks coming in, and a collective doesn't like seeing their investment on the bench. And, I know they're supposed to be separated from the college, but all of a sudden they want them on the field, and that kid's not ready to play. And it could ruin a lot of things. There's just so many questions for me. I mean, I think it's the most amazing thing ever. Players should have been able to profit off themselves forever.
Right.
But do you see that, in the near future with these big money deals happening, and will that be a catalyst to maybe, level out the market?
Certainly. I think that they're in a short order, the collectives, which are the underbelly of these, the highest compensating parties of college football, let's talk about that, and basketball, have figured out a way to protect all interests, right? And I say this as an athlete advocate, but athletes that are marketable for whatever reason, whether they're good at their sport or they're good in their community, like, they deserve to be compensated their market value. And sometimes you can be paid more than your market value, sometimes less. I'll say that. And that collectives themselves are structuring these deals in a way where they're unlikely to be overcompensating an underperformer.
Okay.
Right. And so they're doing it so that there's monthly installments of payments, and those monthly payment amounts could change one month to the next. Right. The smartest groups are doing things like that. Some of them doing it every 2 weeks. And so they're structuring things so that they're properly compensating based on, what they believe to be the marketable aspects of that athlete, however you want to determine that. So, more, I guess, in a less abstract way, like, this market, there is no ceiling. The schools that spend big and win will keep spending big, and the schools that spend big and lose will spend differently, but it will not change the spend. It's a race to the top, and the largest source of revenue in college athletics is donors, right? Like, if you take all the media rights and all that stuff, like, we think is the largest, but if you put it cumulatively, like, donations to college athletic departments is is a $20 billion plus a year endeavor, right? And those dollars are shifting in certain markets.
This,
And that's okay.
yeah. I mean, it's more than okay. It's incredible. I think there's a common misconception that guy gets this contract. He's given $8 million. He can sit on his butt for 4 years and he just receives the money. I think it's incredible that this is a constantly evolving market, and it's based off the value you provide. So that's a huge misconception out there. Another one is everybody thinks that there's all these $1 million players. What's the reality of that?
I would say that there are not a lot of $1 million players. There are $1 million players. And some of it comes down to the most marketable athletes that have a large online social audience. They are all Americans. They're all conference. They've been in school for 2-3 years. Like, they are bona fide stars off the field. And if they're a star on the field, then they're going to get best of both worlds. Like, they're going to get athlete-driven NIL. They're going to get brand deals from, Beats and Degree and Dr. Pepper, and they're going to get the donor deals, like for the $50,000 1 hour appearance. They're going to get it all. So there are $1 million athletes out there, and that's okay too. The market for a class of 2025 top quarterback is north of $7 million a year. It has to be, and that's just competition, right? I mean, that's just how it is. So there was a lot of numbers we shared, Clint, about what this market could be before NIL started. And there was a lot of message boards chatter like, yeah, right, this is crazy. No way that Spencer Rattler's worth nearly $1 million a year. And like, if you break it down, there's probably some line items that you could say, like, yeah, he's earning or out earning that amount. And it's fun to see the data, and it's fun to see more of it get shared. But yeah, there's $1 million players out there.
Wow. I'm such a data guy. So I find it incredibly interesting. You mentioned, and I'll go over this real quick because I know you don't have a lot of time, but a 2025. Now, are you talking about a 2025 high school athlete in a state where NIL is legal? They can already start making money off of that?
No, they can technically, but what I'm talking about more specifically is that they should expect to earn 7 figures when they get to college per year if they are a top prospect in that class. Yeah,
this is amazing.
24, 25. Yep.
There will be guys then, and we've seen it over the years, where these guys, they have a great college career, do nothing in the NFL. The school made tons of money off of them. They never saw a penny of it. They might have not even graduated. Yep. But this is an opportunity where guys are going to make more money in college, maybe than they do in the NFL, if they do make it to the NFL, or if they don't make it to the NFL at all.
Right.
And I just think it is absolutely incredible. And you guys are a catalyst for making it happen. One thing that I have a question about is, you have an Opendorse profile. People can visit the Opendorse site. They can go to Blake Lawrence. Yeah. One of the things I thought was really cool on there is they can pitch an idea to you, and you give them feedback. And, is this something that anybody can do? Or do you have to be a former college athlete? Do you have to work in sports? What is the limit of Opendorse to the common person or common athlete?
There's no limit. Like, Opendorse is free to download the app, create a profile, have your own listing and whatnot. It's designed, for the buyer to find athletes. It's a lot easier to find athletes than it is to find just general consumers. But anyone in the world can use Opendorse as their home base to sell autographs, shout outs, appearances, whatnot. So I have a profile there. Again, you can check it out. Opendorse.com it feels like Amazon for athlete endorsements. Like, go search for an athlete, you'll find them and see how much it costs to pay them for something. And you can definitely work with me. But it's free and open. And a lot of that's for compliance purposes. We got to make sure this is available to every athlete. This Opendorse is not biased towards any one sport or any one athlete, right? If you are on your journey and you believe this is your time to maximize your NIL value, start an Opendorse page and make $1 or $2 and maybe make $1,000 or $2. But that's what we exist to do, is make that incredibly easy for the athlete.
Okay. As a high school player, could they go and sign up for an Opendorse profile right now?
They certainly can. So high school athletes, I mean, no matter where you're at in the world, you have to understand your local policy and legislation to
Yeah.
determine what type of money you can make. And so for us, we have to make the tools available because we can't police every state and every local policy and conference rule and coach rule. And so we have to make that tool widely available and then, help athletes understand the rules. And Opendorse.com does have a list of all the high school state association rules and the state by state NIL policies that impact college athletes and whatnot. So all that's there, but yeah, go crazy, man. Create a profile, and we do see more of that, and we will see more of that as NIL trickles down to the college or the high school level.
How about a random guy in the media like me? Would I be able to go and make an Opendorse profile?
I would encourage you to, Clint, and at least you can say,
I'm going to do
I tried it out, man. I tried it out.
I am
You were
going
an
to do
athlete
it.
at one point, man. Don't
Yeah,
shy
I
away from
tried.
it. Yeah. You put your stats out there. That'd be all right.
That is incredible. So anybody who's listening to this, players, parents, it's a one-stop shop. They have the legislation. You know what you're allowed to do.
Yep.
You can start a profile and you can start branding yourself now through basically you guys own the space. I mean,
Yeah.
It is incredible what you've done in such a short amount of time. And I'll finish with this because I know we're running over on time.
Yeah, we're good.
But explain to me. Well, one, why is Opendorse so essential? You've kind of explained it throughout this, but I'm just so impressed with everything that I've heard. You've taken it to a new level. I had an understanding, but this is even better than what I thought. It is more in depth than what I thought. Why is it so essential? How are you guys the leader in the NIL space? And how do you see it shaping the NIL space moving forward?
Yes, certainly. So a common saying when I spend most of my time with athletic directors, conference commissioners, like those types, head coaches, talking about NIL, and start most conversations like this, Clint. NIL is new to college sports. NIL is not new to sports. So if you go back a decade when we started Opendorse to help Prince Amukamara, within a month of starting the company, we got a phone call from the NFL Players Association asking if they could use our technology to help NFL players manage NIL deals. Okay. And then we partnered with the NFLPA, MLBPA, NHLPA, PGA Tour, LPGA, Team USA, and every national governing body. So for a decade, we have provided the only technology platform that helps professional athletes manage endorsements. So you combine that with the fact that, and you said this, not me, and I agree with it, that NIL is the most important thing that's happened in college sports in a very, very long time.
No question.
So if you have one of the most transformative things to happen in an industry ever, and you're looking for a partner to help you navigate those waters, most people will choose a proven partner. And Opendorse is proven at the pro level. And that combined with more than half of Power 5 schools and a group of 5 schools and D1 schools use Opendorse right now, like this is the Amazon of the industry. It's the fanatics of NIL. Like this is a trusted, tried and true solution. And that's why. And for most people that are hearing Opendorse for the first time, like that's exciting. They think it's an overnight story. This is a decade in the making. This is every day and every minute of my life since I was done playing football at Nebraska has been dedicated to helping athletes maximize whatever time they have and using technology to do it. So it's new to you. And we're excited to see our name grow and become, what it needs to be in this industry and be helping as many athletes as we can. But it's been a grind and an exciting and rewarding one along the way. Man,
I'm so, I don't want to say proud, but like so impressed, man. I am proud. I mean, I remember you as a recruit, like to see what you have done and to see you shape what we have said is one of the biggest things to happen in sports. I mean, you're brilliant, and I cannot wait to see where this goes from here.
Clay, I'll share something. I know that most of the time you might have coaches watching this or listening to this. And so if you've made it this far, hopefully we've entertained you, you've learned something. But for every coach out there that is wondering, why am I doing this? How does this work? Like there's so many nuances to this, but I want you to know this. I want you to know my story, my experience. Clint Cosgrove changed my life.
Wow.
Right? I met everything I have in my life, I can tie back to my decision to go play football at Nebraska. Everything in my life. Okay. And Kevin Cosgrove, your dad, had to make a bet on me. I had to make a bet on him. I had to make that choice. And I wouldn't change it for the world. And so thankful for everything. But as a coach, you got to realize that these are it's definitely your next linebacker. It's definitely like a 3-star, 4-star, whatever it is. Like, yeah, they're names on bulletin boards, but that's somebody's life. And if you do it right, you're going to change it forever and for good. So take that into account, and you deserve to know that your dad does too.
Man, you're going to make my mom cry. I know you'll probably make my dad cry. You got me emotional here.
Yeah, man. So just know that, guys, like these are kids. This is their life. And, why they decide to say yes to you and your program, that's up to you. But once they say yes, understand the impact it has. And if you can ensure that you make good on your promises, and certainly Nebraska did, and certainly Coach Cosgrove did, your dad, then you're going to create great men, great women out of student athletes. And that should be the goal of coaching in the first place.
No question, man. Wow. That's a lot. And, one of the reasons why, not only because Opendorse is the leader in the space, but you do things the right way. You're a high character guy, and it shows through your authenticity. And I just love what you're doing, and you're doing it for the right reasons. You're working hard at it too, but you're doing it the right way, and hopefully it's been rewarding. I know it has, and hopefully it continues to be. But man, Blake, I just learned so much today, more than I have in any podcast that I've done, any NIL person that I've talked to, any kid I've talked to through the recruiting process. And this is even, I knew it was brilliant, but this is even far and above what I thought. So I just can't thank you enough for coming on. And man, I could have talked for hours. Hope to pick your brain again soon, man.
Yeah, bring me back on. We'll catch up. I appreciate it, Clint.
Yeah, thanks a ton. There you got it. Blake Lawrence. You can find him on his Twitter right there, opendorse.com. Go and set up your profile. There's no reason that you shouldn't profit off your name, image, and likeness, because that is the future, and you've earned it. We'll talk to you soon.